Well, guys, it's still summer, so we should be able to get out on our garden railways. And it's just the start, it's a Friday, as I'm making the video, at the start of a bank holiday weekend. So I hope you managed to get out there and get some good running. But right now, I'm just going to show you my progress and tell you a little bit of my experience so far with a LocoRemote remote control for battery operated garden railways. Okay, box opening time with a garden railway related item. By way of introduction, this is a battery locomotive. I'm going to say I think it's PDF models kit that I built. Anyway, I've got a video of me building the thing. It runs very nicely when weighted so that all four front wheels land on the track. And at the moment, I've got two wires coming out of the back of it to go to a battery truck that runs behind it. I've not even got coupling on it yet. Now, in relation to that, I've just bought this. And so what I bought in here is a LocoRemote system. Just before I start with this, let me say I've got a couple of remote controls for locomotives. You will see some videos on my channel which are of the Hogwarts Express, the Lionel Hogwarts Express, and the remote control on that one is some very simple wireless remote control. I also have a couple of Playmobil locomotives which have wireless remote control. These are on what's called, I think, ASTM frequencies, but those frequencies that are used for car fobs and all sorts of those things, those frequencies that can be used. I've got a old toy train. It's not toy train make, I think it was LGB, can't remember, which had infrared control, and I've taken the mechanism out of that and the infrared controller and put it into a UK outline body. So I've got an infrared controlled locomotive. Anyway, so these have various wireless remotes, and I've got another remote which is more or less like an aircraft remote control. You bind it. Well, the Playmobil ones have that level of frequency to a controller, and you use a joystick on a remote control, plus a previous version of this type of thing, which is where you bind it remote. But this is slightly different technology. It's the current versions of the LocoRemote, and it's the maxi size one I've got. So it's for the 6 to 12 volt machines. I think that one's about 6 volts. And here it is, this as it's come. I got the version which has outputs to allow you to control forward and reverse LEDs, directional LEDs, and also to allow you to, what does it allow you to do? Sound, interface to a sound chip. Yeah. So this is what there is. Let me put it on here so we can have a look. The other thing I got was a 3D printed support, so that I can screw it onto the 3D printed support somehow. I'll read the instructions later, and then it makes it a little bit easier for me to mount it. What comes in the box? Well, the maxi card with the interface for forward and reverse lights and the interface to drive a sound card. A set of ribbon cables with individual pin plugs on them. So not joined together as multi-pins. It's ribbon cable with that fitted, and a small Allen key and a basic sheet of instructions, 6 to 12 volts. Whoops. Oh, and that other wire there. There's two lots of wires. And the other thing then is that you can download further instructions from the internet, from their website, and do it. Right, so the first thing you want to know is, how does this communicate? Well, now, rather than the three versions I've mentioned before, which are infrared, lower frequency wireless, higher frequency wireless for binding plugs like model aircraft and model RC cars, this one uses Wi-Fi. And I can tell from that strip on there that this is the Wi-Fi module. And this may be the PIC controller or other controller complete with the Wi-Fi. And whether that's an Arduino or Raspberry Pi or some other Lowlin, it says. I haven't investigated that, but we could later tell you about that. And it's got reset switch, a micro USB port for power, but presumably we don't use that on this. And then what's connected to it are what in the Arduino family world are called hats. Things that connect to it through some interfacing pins. I'm touching these, so I hope it's statically protected with everything else connected to it. And that's my front door. Well, kettle's on for a cup of tea. Anyway, first impression. Let me just say that I'm pleased by the small size of this. That's my finger. I could put a ruler alongside it. But it is really quite compact on in terms of garden scales, and as compact as any receiver that I've seen for the garden scales. So that is going to be quite easy to locate. In fact, if I wanted it inside the body of this, it would easily go inside the cylinder of this Loco. So it could easily fit inside the cylinder if you found somewhere else to put the batteries. So there'll be no harm, no difficulty adding LocoRemote to this. I'm pretty confident it would go in there. And you'd get enough batteries. This will run well on, this will run fine on 4 AA, but this being a 6 to 12 volt one, I think I've done that so that it will run with 6 AA batteries. So there we are, that's the first impression so far. So here is the chaos on the workbench. And I had this all functioning last night. And so what I'm going to do now on video is see how easy it is, once I've been through the whole process, to get it established, i.e. get the Wi-Fi connection. That's the main thing. So there's the box that the actual electronics came in. And then what I've done is I bought some of these these resettable fuse devices, look like little tantalum capacitors, and I had a switch in stock, and I bought some battery holders. So there's a switch there, the little resettable fuse is soldered in as suggested in the instructions. Now you get one printed set of instructions with the actual LocoRemote. Which sheet is that? I'll come to it. But then what you do is you get several to download. Now, that by far the largest multi-page document is the 7 or 8 pages about connecting the Wi-Fi. Are we surprised that doing the Wi-Fi connection is the hardest bit, or the bit that needs most writing about? 2 sides, here we go, on the various LocoRemotes. And how they're set up, and a little bit. It tells you about Wi-Fi setup down there as well, but this is the brief information to get you started. And the one that I've got is the Maxi external sound. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 boards, a few connectors, but it's got these connectors so I can put a sound card in there, and it's got the LEDs as well. And it's for 6 to 12 volt motors. Okay, which is, I'll have to check on my locomotives what voltage motors they are. So it's that one. You've got a whole, just a single sheet on the batteries, but it does have the circuit. One circuit here for use with, let's call it the LiPo batteries, where you are advised to remove the batteries while charging them, and one circuit here for use with NiCad, nickel metal hydride batteries, and the other normal rechargeable batteries, where you could have a charge socket on the side of your loco and charge it on the loco, but a two-way switch in either case. This is as I fitted with a different technology remote on another loco, where the batteries are inside the loco and you just plug a charger in. So there's the alternatives for wiring up, and then a sheet describing how you connect up front and rear lights. And on this particular loco, I'd like to have it, but my configuration at the moment does not allow for the use of the LocoRemote to control the LEDs, and I'll say that in a moment. So what have I done? Well, it's very simple, really. It's just that simple circuit, which I had here, and I've gone for this one because what I did was bought off that eBay an 8-cell charger, because 6 to 12 volts, if you've got 8 cells, it gives you a nice power. And I bought a couple of battery holders. This is an 8-cell battery holder, so it will hold all of those. This is a 4-cell battery holder for the smaller motors. I've got a spare 8-cell holder here. A 6-cell holder was more expensive than the 8-cell holder. So what I am doing at the moment is running it with 5 cells, and I've made for myself, if I turn it over, some dummy batteries. Piece of dowel, piece of wire, bare wire on the ends of a suitable length. You plug it in, it shorts out where a battery would be, so it turns an 8-cell holder into a 5-cell holder, or I could take another one out and put 6 cells in. So I've got flexibility with that if I've decided to do it. Now, in this particular loco here, what you might try and do, if you can also get the weight, is see if you can put 4 cells in with one of these. And it might be that you try and put the 4 cells in a different configuration. Now, just for convenience, I've taken one of these small component boxes. It's really used to be sold as a slide box. And so off camera now, I'm going to take my freshly charged batteries, put them into the battery holder, connect up the motor wires from here to the loco. And the other thing that I've done is I've finished off a model. This is something I 3D printed. It's about my biggest 3D print. This is one that was freely downloadable, and I finished it off because I decided what wheels I was going to use with it. These are metal wheels. They're Bachmann metal wheels, and that meant I could set the sole bars at the appropriate distance. A bit of a fiddle getting the wheels in. We don't need to talk about that. But I've not fitted the buffer beam and couplings because until I had the wheels on, I've got 4 different sizes of wheels, must be. And I did go for these rather larger wheels on here, the Bachmann wheels. Until I had the wheels on, it's not clear what height the couplings are. So, that's raised on a rolling road. So, not really related to this, but if I'm going to be using, as I've not said yet, a truck to hold the LocoRemote, so I can swap it onto a couple of locos, cheapskate or just saves having to play around with a Loco, burying it inside, then I'm looking at just a way of coupling them together so that I can connect and disconnect the wires. So just to remind you of the relatively small size of the actual receiver and speed controller, these are standard AA batteries. Those are my dummy batteries. I put them in here with the batteries down in the holder so the weight is down at the bottom. That's the actual LocoRemote receiver and speed controller and light controller and sound, well, outputs, signal outputs, the sound. And there's the switch. I've only insulated with sellotape. It's a tight fit. It's a bit risky. I'm not sure with this configuration that I could get the wires for the sound and light. Well, I could get the sound wires for the LEDs connected, but I wouldn't be able to get the wires for the lights connected. And there's no lid planned for this, because the one thing that they do point out, because it's got power control circuitry on here to control the speed of the motor, to keep the airflow available around it. And I hope there's enough airflow around that as it's configured there, because it would sit in the bottom or inside a Loco. A note that just a little thing, as I was stripping off the ends of the wires to control the motor power, you do notice how, I was going to say thin the wires are. It's multi-stranded cable, of course, but it's not very heavy flex that's being used in this case. So it's quite light flex. Clearly, they've thought it through, and it's of the right sort of size. It says it will deliver up to 2 amps. So there we are. So that's how it fits. And that would drop into a following carriage truck of some sort if you did decide to go that route. And I'll just connect it up, run it, and then while it's running, I'll say a little bit about what's available and what's not available. I've had to get a little camera out because I've realised that I can't use the phone as a camera while I'm using it for the Wi-Fi to connect to LocoRemote. So, if you hadn't gathered already, it's a Wi-Fi controller, and it operates by this, I believe, being set up as Wi-Fi server, and this is a client connecting to it. And so what happens is, as you switch this on now, so it's all powered up, nothing will happen. Switch it on. There's a little blue light that flashes, blue LED that flashes on there. We've not got little flashing lights saying now pairing or anything like that, because it's not pairing. And what we need to do is go into settings on the phone. Oops, it already did. Network and internet. Wi-Fi is connected to what I call Garden Railway, which is home Wi-Fi. And it's already come up that it's got Loco there, which is the LocoRemote one, nice and strong. Now I've already entered the password for it, so it's now connecting. Now the first thing that we got is obtaining IP address, so it's now connecting to the LocoRemote. But you have to do this each time you set out to do some running of a Loco on the track. And so you need to go through this procedure, because you're not going to leave your phone permanently connected to LocoRemote. If you're using a phone, you're going to use it for other things as well. Now, obtaining IP address. So you're listening to me talk while I'm doing this. So while I'm waiting for this to obtain the IP address, okay, oh, there we go. I think it's getting there. Struggle a bit. Just to say that if you put it in a truck behind, then when you look at the issue of connecting the LEDs, which is on one of these pieces of paper, connected. No internet, that's all right. Now, what I need to do is go to the browser, and the browser on here does not have a way of entering into the browser by, always does a search, and it's searched, and it says, oh dear, you shouldn't be here, right? Because it's got to LocoRemote, whatever it is, new tab. But even if I do look for LocoRemote, right, okay, that's the web address. Let's go back. The web address that you're putting in is that one there, if this will focus on it. It doesn't matter, you'll get it in the instructions, locoremote.co.uk version 1. You are not going to be connecting to the internet, but presumably there is also an internet one which has this page on it, and we didn't want to go to that. So what I have to do is I have to go through a sequence of operations now, which is described in here, in order to get my phone to not use 4G or whatever it's using to connect to so let's turn that, get rid of that. Let's go back to settings again, and let's turn off Wi-Fi, turn on Wi-Fi. So here we are. I don't want that one, I want this one, and I'm hoping it will come up with something connected, no internet. It didn't come up with the prompt to say stay connected, because if that prompt comes up, then you can click it in a certain way. Now, to be honest, I'm just following the instructions, but it has taken me a couple of times to disconnect and reconnect and get the prompt which says tap here. You can't read that very clearly on this screen because the camera doesn't work. This local has no internet access, stay connected. Click there, yes. Now when you do that, it means stay connected to this rather than using an alternative network, which takes you away from it. So now, if I go back to Google and refresh this page, then it should go. So now I have control. So the first thing I would say is that getting to this stage, and this is not the fault of LocoRemote, this is phones and the way they're set up to try and get you data through whatever you've got, 4G, 3G, 5G, if your Wi-Fi is not working, because it always assumes if you open Google that you want to use the internet rather than just make a Wi-Fi connection. And on a phone, with the way Google is on the phone, it's going to be tough. I believe on a computer it could be easier. Anyway, so now I'm there, right? So I assume it's a speed 0, battery at 7.11 volts. I've got 7 volts on the battery. There's the LocoRemote batteries in there, connected with a wire to a Loco. It's set to forward. I'm going to click the thing going faster. Now with this particular motor, it's gone to 25% and it's not moving yet, but it's a bit sticky at 35%. And now it's away. Now, excuse the grumbling of the motor. This is my build. I think that's PDF Models Loco kit that I've got there. So I think I'm just in first gear. That's going up to 60% power. The battery's dropped to 6.81, and now I'm going to go up to 100% power. That's quite nice. It's gone up there okay. That's running at top speed. That's plenty fast enough for this little Loco, isn't it? And what it has, it's got a useful thing, which is a toast to stop. So there you are. Once connected, you'll hear it running up now as I go forwards. You can see it going up in speed. 100%. Well, it is rushing away. I'm sorry I'm not on the track, but it's a lot easier to show while it's on the rolling road in here. And then coast to stop, and you'll see the speed dropping there. And this is, it does actually have two-way communication, so that you're getting feedback from the device, which is actually showing you live the battery voltage that you've got on your battery pack in there, which is very useful. And you do not get any response if there's on here if there is no connection. In other words, I can go into reverse and ramp up the speed, beginning to go up, and it will go in reverse. It's not going in reverse. Oh, it did, because of the my drive on there. So there might be something I have to look at on the Loco itself to get that a lot smoother. So there's a lot to be decided on my Loco build, chassis build, to get that thing smoother. It's a bit noisy there, isn't it? So let's just coast to stop again. And it's interesting that the way I've wired it up, the positive and negative, it straight away was forward and reverse on here. So there we have it, remote control here, operates over quite a good range. I'm pretty sure about that. I could look at the signal there and see, without any extra antennas, a Wi-Fi thing. This is, but the only issue is that, right, the instructions say that you can control as many locos as you like, but you've got to rename the Wi-Fi, change the Wi-Fi name and password on your thing there, and you've got to do that reconnection. Now, off camera, I was messing around quite a bit to get it reconnected. So to control a second locomotive, you would need to go to another connection. Now, those who've used DCC know you can flick from one loco to another on the Loco control software fairly quickly. Well, with LocoRemote, you can't do that because you're making a new Wi-Fi connection to each loco, and therefore you're not doing away with the need to have multiple controllers to simultaneously control several locos. But if you're only running one in steam at once, as it were, or one battery loco at once, then you could put separate receivers into each loco and call them all by different names, and then just connect to whichever one you're running that day from your control panel. My approach at the moment is to have it separate to the loco, so I don't have to have a lot of different receivers. I could change that name up there, and I would swap that. This is if you're running one loco in steam. It saves on, well, for me it was saving on having to try and stuff everything inside the loco to get it to work, basically. But having it running behind is what I'm doing. The disadvantage of running behind is that at the moment, to get feedback to give the motor sound, or the chuff sound in this case, from the motor rotation, you would need a pair of wires from your loco. Having said that, I might investigate whether you could detect the rotation of the wheel on the truck to control the speed of the chuff sound for your loco. That might be fine. The other thing is the LED connections for LEDs going forward and back. Then that would be typically four wires from the LocoRemote into the loco, if you're going to do it using the switchable light sound here and the detection of the direction of the loco. Now, there are other ways that I'm contemplating for doing the LEDs, which mean that I wouldn't need the light board that's fixed into here but there we are, because I'm not contemplating putting a multi-way cable onto the Loco in this instance. So let me see how I get on with those when I do it. But there we are, that's my review of LocoRemote. What it is that I'm thinking it's nice to have the one like this, but I might be going back to another. Well, the good news is that after being switched off for a couple of days, well, over the bank holiday weekend, both the LocoRemote that's in the truck behind and on the phone, I've turned on that, connected to the Wi-Fi, and then selected LocoRemote, which was remembered in my thing. So let's see if I can go to first gear, see if anything happens. Okay, and there we go. LocoRemote is working fine. Now it's going to be tricky here, because I think I've got, sorry, I'm holding the phone here and trying to hold the camera over there, and I'm not dexterous enough. Anyway, right, I think I've got the phone now reverse, because I've not cleared the shrubbery. Okay, now let's go see if it will go back in reverse. There we go. Now it's a hybrid coupling. I put well, an LGB coupling onto this 3D printed truck that I've got. And I've got a plug and socket in the wires there, so it can be disconnected, connected up to other things. And so that Loco is being driven by the LocoRemote, and just another go with it. I hope I'm not covering the microphone. Where's the microphone on this? Sorry, because I've had problems before where my finger was inadvertently being pressed on the microphone and it's made awful sounds. Right, so here we go. Let's do it faster this time. Okay, top speed. And the Wi-Fi works as it disappears down there. Okay, let's reverse. There we go. Ooh, it negotiated the leaves on the line. So there, that's, I'm very satisfied with that. So what this gives me is a Wi-Fi controlled speed with facilities to put a sound card onto it. I have the option here of removing 3 dummy batteries to add up to 8 cells for different Locos, because some Locos might want more. This one is quite happy with the 5 cells that I've got in there. That again is the little receiver controller, and we'll see what we can do with that sound card later. And that's it. It's just this which connects to the motor in there. Now, forward and reverse lamps on this Loco, I haven't even got round to thinking about that, but my thoughts are that if we're putting this in here, we would need to have a second wire, which would be a servo lead. So I'd buy a servo lead and then chop it in two, and that would be used for front and rear lights. That's just a thought at the moment.
So there we go. That's the not a full circuit of the layout, but just my trial of this PDF kit, Loco, a LocoRemote, and a 3D printed truck. I think I did drop the person that put this onto Thingiverse a little token of satisfaction, a little donation, but that has gone together quite nicely. I did have to adjust the frames on it to fit the wheels that I had. I've got top hat brass bearings in there, and I've drilled through the plastic axle box to allow for the end of the axle that these particular wheels came with to come through, and covered the top hat brass bearings and then put them in with some epoxy resin. Not concerned about the epoxy resin sticking to the brass itself, just making a nice place for it to be located in there. Anyway, there we go. That was successful. I'm going to take it in now because it's a grey sky with clouds, tiny spots of rain. Not the sunniest of weather for running in tea time. It's tea time now.